Hi guys, welcome to the fourth video on our neuroanatomy playlist. For those of you that have made it thus far, congratulations. And for those of you that have not watched our first three videos, I advise you to go watch those videos before you proceed with this video. Because everything I will talk about today is based on the foundation of the first three videos on this neuroanatomy playlist. And so today I'll be talking about the gray matter and the white matter. And it will interest you to know that many medical students often confuse what the gray matter is and the white matter is. They just memorize this fact, but they literally can't explain what the gray matter means and what the white matter means. And that is what I'm going to be explaining in this video. So, the gray matter is simply an association or a congregation of the cell body, the dendrites, and synapses. So what is the gray matter made up of? The gray matter is simply an accumulation of the cell body, the dendrite, and the synapses of the neuron. And I caught you there. You don't know what the cell body of the neuron is. You don't know what the dendrite of the neuron is. You don't know what a synapse is. But I have good news for you. Scroll down to our playlist and watch the video on the neuron and proceed with this. So like I said, the gray matter. The gray matter comprises of what? The cell body, the dendrites, and the synapses of neurons. So whenever you see the gray matter in the brain or in the spinal cord, just know that it is an accumulation of the cell bodies of these neurons, the dendrites of these neurons, and the synapses of these neurons. It is so easy. And what is the function of the cell body I told you? I told you earlier in the video of the neuron that this is where the information is being received, it is being processed, and then it is being prepared to be sent out through the axon. So whenever you look at the brain, you will see these areas which is known as the cortex. These are all gray matters. Whenever you look at the brain, and even when you look at the top of the brain, the cortex is simply made up of gray matters. But then in the spinal cord we have here, in the cross section of the spinal cord, you will see that there is a bit of a difference, that the gray matter is actually what? Inside. It is this H-shaped horn like a butterfly you see here, that is the gray matter for the spinal cord. Why in the brain it is actually what? The outer boundary, which is the cortex. And then we also have some internal structure which is also the gray matter, and this comprises of the basal ganglia. And what does the basal ganglia consist of? It consists of the caudate nucleus, it consists of the putamen, and then we have this globus pallidus, internal and external. So we have what? Globus pallidus, external and internal. And then another gray matter we have deeply embedded is the thalamus. Also, the subthalamic nuclei also is part of the gray matter. So we can see that what? These structures are actually the cell bodies, the dendrites, and the synapses of the neuron. So if you look at this, this is simply the horn of the spinal cord, and here we have the dorsal horn, and the ventral horn. And by the side we have the lateral horn of the spinal cord. And because I am trying to build a foundation, taking you step by step, I won't be going into details, the function of each of these structures I just highlighted. I just want you to have an understanding that what these structures comprises of the gray matter. And when you see a structure that is a white matter structure, you know the differences between it. But as time goes on, we will build on this foundational knowledge you have. And so the gray matter, the cortex, which are the outer structures of the brain, and deep structures such as the caudate nucleus, the putamen nucleus, the globus pallidus externa and interna, the thalamus subthalamic nuclei, and we also have what? The horn of the spinal cord, which is what? The dorsal horn, the ventral horn, and the lateral horn. So now we'll be moving to the white matter structure. So what does the white matter consist of? Now the white matter are simply myelinated axons. So scattered through the brain and the spinal cord, whenever you see any white matter structure, it is simply the myelinated axons of the structures, and it is the myelination by the squamous cells or the oligodendrocytes, which are lipid rich, that gives it this whitish appearance it has. And so the white matter structures, what they actually do is that they connect one part of the cortex to another part, and they also connect the cortex to other deep structures and also to the spinal cord and the brain stem. And so, like I said, for the white matter, I said the white matter is simply myelinated axons. And so these white matters actually, they can be categorized. And this is because whenever we talk about the white matter actually consists of tract. And this tract can be defined as a bundle of axons. And this can also be classified into the main functions of these tracts. They can be classified according to the course or the projection of the tract, and they can be classified according to the bundle type. So let me write it for understanding. Permit me to wipe this side a bit. So the white matter, we have the white matter. And I said, the white matter, the tracts can be classified according to their main functions. So according to the main function, we have, number one, we have projection fibers. So the projection fibers actually are responsible for up and down movement of information in the central nervous system. And this projection fiber, a good example of it is the internal capsule. And the internal capsule is actually the white matter around this area. And this is what I actually highlighted in the diagram below. So this is your projection fiber. What this projection fiber does is that it sends down motor information from the cortex to the spinal cord, and then it now takes sensory information from the thalamus to the cortex, and from the cortex again to the spinal cord. So a perfect example, like I said, is the internal capsule. And this is what is projected here. And don't be confused, this is a transverse section of the brain. So which means if you are looking at this transverse section, the internal capsule now is taking the information upwards. So this is transverse. So when you have transverse, it means the internal capsule is taking the information upwards. And this is actually a frontal plane, and in this plane you can see actually that what is taken from the spinal cord up to the cortex. So this is the projection fiber. The next is what? The commissural fibers. So what this commissural fibers does is that it actually connects one part of the hemisphere to the next. That means it connects the right part of the cerebral hemisphere to the left part of the hemisphere to what creates what? A coordination and synchrony of their function. And the corpus callosum is the white matter that is actually performing this function. So when you look at this part here, this is your what? Corpus callosum. So let's label it the corpus callosum. This is responsible for linking the right cerebral hemisphere to the left cerebral hemisphere to aid the coordination and synchrony of the function of these hemispheres. And the last type of the white matter tract according to the function are the association fibers. So what the association fiber does is that it actually transmits information from one part of the cortex to the next in the same hemisphere. So which means it can transmit information from one part of this gyrus to the next part of the gyria in the same what? Cerebral hemisphere. So if it's acting on the right cerebral hemisphere, it will keep sending this information within the hemispheres. And this is what I represented in this diagram. For instance, all this you see here are the association fibers. So you see this? These are your what? Association fibers. And I didn't label this. This is the commissural fiber. And so it is a very simple and basic understanding that most students actually fail to understand when we talk about what? The white matter tract. So for easy understanding, I made this diagram also. So whenever you talk about projection fibers, it means the fibers, the white matter tract, are actually sending information from the cortex down to the spinal cord and still taken from the thalamus up. So it is what? Sending information down, up, down, up. Why the commissural fibers are the ones responsible for linking the two hemispheres. And this I illustrated here is the association fiber sending information between the cortex and the gyruses in the same hemisphere. So these are your projection fibers. Projection fibers. These are your association fibers. The other classification of the white matter tract, they are classified according to their cause and projection. So this is classification of the white matter tract according to cause and projection. And in this category, we have the ascending tract. The ascending tract. So what the ascending tract is responsible for, it is actually responsible for taking information from the lower level of the CNS to the higher level of the CNS. So it can be responsible for taking information from the spinal cord or from the brainstem down to the cortex. And we also have the descending tract. The descending tract. The descending tract is responsible for taking motor information from the cortex down to the spinal cord. The other tract we have the primary or the direct tract. The primary or the direct tract is simply a single neuron performing a function. And then the next we have the secondary or the indirect tract. Now the secondary or the indirect tract is a relay of neurons. This means a single neuron cannot carry information from the motor cortex to the effector organ. So it means that the information have to be relayed by synapses. And so a brief pictorial description of the ascending tract will be what? Something going up. You see, the fiber is what going up, sending information up to the cortex. The descending tract is taking information down to the spinal cord. The primary or the direct tract is simply one long neuron that is going to an effector organ. Why for the indirect, there need to be a relay of this what? Information. So this is according to the cause and projection. And the next category of the white matter tract, the next classification will be according to the bundle type. So we have what? According, classification according to the bundle type. In this category, we have the somatomotor fibers. What the somatomotor fibers does is that it regulates striated what? Muscles. And the next we have the visceromotor fibers. So what these somatomotor fibers do is that they are able to regulate smooth muscles, myocardium, and also they are able to regulate secretory glands. The next on the list we have is the somatosensory fibers. So the function of the somatosensory fiber is actually to transmit information from mechanoreceptors, from proprioceptors, from esteroreceptors, and also from thermoreceptors. The next on the list, we have the viscerosensory fibers. So the viscerosensory fibers, they are able to transmit information from the internal organs and also from the interoceptors. The last we have are the special sensory fibers. So the special sensory fibers, they simply transmit information from the special senses. We have been able to look at the composition of the gray matter and the white matter, and we have also been able to break down the white matter tract, which are what? Bundles of axons. And we said the white matter tract can be categorized according to their main function, according to their cause and projection, and according to the bundle type. And so in subsequent videos, what we are going to be doing is to be explaining each of these in details, especially when it comes to the white matter tract according to their cause and projection. So we'll go into details in future videos, but like I said, this is actually a foundational class which will build step by step. And so guys, keep in mind that the gray matter is made of the cell body, dendrites, and synapses. Whenever there is damage to the gray matter, it can lead to seizures, asphyxias, cortical blindness, and neglect. And when there is a damage to the white matter, especially in cases of stroke in the internal capsule, this will lead to loss of coordination. And so this is simply the explanation of the gray matter and the white matter. And I hope this video has been able to build your understanding on this term that is mostly confused. So guys, like I have explained, the gray matter is seen in the bordering environment of the brain, and so everything that is not painted blue in this structure is the white matter. So all these parts painted that are not painted blue is your what? White matter. And also in the spinal cord, aside from the central canal, which is here, this is your central canal, this structure is the gray matter structure, and everything not painted blue here is the white matter. And so keep this in mind. On our website landsmedacademy.com, we have free PDFs that have detailed explanations of everything explained in this video, and also we have also included MCQs for you to test your knowledge. So feel free to visit our website to test your knowledge and also to get your free notes and PDFs. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook and TikTok. Until next time, see you guys. Bye.